only like to wear things that fill me with joy and make me feel excited.
Welcome to Off the Hanger, the fashion podcast where we delve deep into our guests' wardrobes, finding out their favourite fashion pieces and the stories behind them. This week's guest is fashion historian Jules Hawksworth. I hope you enjoy. Jules, good morning. Thank you so much for being part of Off the Hanger and joining us from sunny Spain, I'm guessing.
Yes, sunny Spain, very near to Granada in the lovely region of Andalusia.
Well, it is blowing a gale and raining sideways here, so...
I'm sorry.
So, you're a fashion historian. I am fascinated by this. How on earth did you become a fashion historian?
So, that's a really good question. And it's often a job that's really hard to explain and describe as well. But in summary, I started working in museums. I graduated with a degree in art and fashion history and worked for a local museum that had quite a varied collection, but did have a really beautiful collection of costume. And I'd always been really interested in fashion. It's always been a big passion of mine ever since I was a little girl. And so through that role in the museum, in that first job I had, which is over 20 years ago now, I was lucky enough to work with an amazing fashion collection, which allowed me to develop that expertise in that area. And I went on to study a master's degree in fashion history, and the rest is history. I've worked with various museums and with universities like the London College of Fashion ever since.
And you'd mentioned that you'd always been into fashion since being a child. Do you have an earliest fashion memory?
I do, actually. In fact, I think it is actually my earliest memory, which is brilliant that it is to do with fashion. And I can remember I think I must have been about 2 or 3 years old, so quite small, with my mum in a shoe shop in New Addington in Croydon where we lived. And I wanted to get a new pair of jelly shoes, and I can remember back then, this is sort of early 70s, that there wasn't a great selection of colours of jelly shoes, and there were 2 big bins. One was full of red jelly shoes and one was full of blue jelly shoes. And I think, unfortunately, back then gender stereotyping was a thing, still is, but even more so back in the 70s. And my mum was sort of trying to say, go for the red. And I was like, no, I want both. So yeah, at an early age, I had a real thing for shoes and wanting to collect, I think, as many lovely things as possible.
What would you say is the oldest thing in your wardrobe?
The oldest thing in my wardrobe, I've actually got them here. It's an accessory rather than an item of clothing, but I'll hold them up. So these are 1920s Czech crystal flapper beads, and there is a lovely story with these as well. And I think that's one of the things as my job as a fashion historian is the stories that are associated with our clothes fascinate me. And these beads were given to me by Alexander McQueen's sister. And it was a very, very important sort of gift, if you like, because they were given to me when she had attended the Met Ball. She wore them to attend the Met Ball the year that he died. So they've got sort of this real significance to them as well. Knowing that she wore them after that tragedy is really powerful. And I wear them a lot. They're very heavy and I like to drape them. I like to wear them just loose as well. They're really long. And in the 1920s, they would just wear them very loose like that, almost sort of down below the waist to the sort of groin area. But yeah, they're a real treasured piece that I own.
Oh my God, I love the story behind that. That's such an incredible piece to have. So what's the thing that gets the most compliments when you wear it?
So when I was looking through the questions that you were going to ask me, this is really difficult because I think maybe not so much all compliments, but I often get asked a lot of questions about what I'm wearing because I wear a lot of vintage. I wear quite a lot of different things that I guess people are maybe not used to seeing all of the time. And I love dressing up. So I dress up, all the time, not just for going out. I think clothes should not just be worn for best. But I think if I had to probably say one of the dresses that I always get complimented on, and is probably one of my favourites, is, and if I can show you bits of it, is a 1980s taffeta ball gown, which is this beautiful bronze colour. And it's full length and it's got a beautiful underskirt, so it's really boofy. It just makes me feel amazing. It fits me really well. It's one of those vintage pieces that when you put it on, you think, oh, this was made for me. It holds me in all the right places and it makes me feel really glamorous and amazing. And yeah, I always get complimented when I wear that. And I love the 1980s. It's one of my favourite periods for fashion. A lot of people are not so keen, but for me, it's the exaggeration, the kind of decadence of it. And that gown is so over the top, but in a wonderful way. Thank you. I can't actually remember how much I paid for it, if I'm honest, but my most expensive piece is a Dolce& and Gabbana Basque, which is probably one of the only designer pieces of clothing that I have. If I'm honest, I don't have a lot of designer clothing. I'm not really interested in labels. As a fashion historian, that sounds probably a little bit crazy, but for me, it's more about what I like, and I wear what I like no matter what the price tag is, I guess. But also, I think that often smaller designers, less well known designers, and thrifting are sort of probably more appealing to me in terms of budget, but also just wearing things that not everybody else is wearing. So, but yeah, that is a prized piece. Again, 1980s, really sort of evocative of that kind of dressing up and going out and kind of, yeah, power dressing at its best, I think, with these gorgeous beads. And again, it fits really lovely. I do, yeah. The last time it had an outing was in Ibiza, so yeah, it goes it goes with me to most of my sort of dancing sessions. It's really stretchy, so although it's beaded, it's got like a beautiful stretch at the back, so it's actually really comfortable to dance in. And I usually wear it with denim hot pants, or I've got a beautiful sort of Spanish style flamenco skirt, which it looks really nice with too.
What's the newest piece that you've got?
The newest thing to me is not new, but it's new to me. It's pre-loved, and it's a silk slip dress, which has got very, very beautiful colours. It's kind of like a tie-dye effect, but it's a lovely bias cut silk dress, which I bought from a lovely friend of mine who runs a boutique in Tunbridge Wells. And it's a really lovely summer item and really nice new addition to my wardrobe. And I've worn it again already in Ibiza this summer.
Does have that kind of sunset Ibiza vibe going on. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, and I love satin slip dresses and bias cut. I think it's incredibly flattering, and I've been in love with them since the 90s, really, when they had a revival. And they're just so versatile too. I like the way that you can make, they're really simple. You can sort of dress them down with some lovely flat sandals, or, if you want to ramp it up in the glamour stakes a little bit, you can add heels, some jewellery, but it's just effortless. And especially in this heat here that we enjoy in Spain, luckily right the way through to the end of October, they're essential for me. If I want to dress up and go out, a satin slip dress is perfect.
It's a wardrobe essential.
Yeah, it is, definitely.
Now, are you quite sentimental when it comes to the pieces in your wardrobe? I imagine you are. What would you say is the most sentimental piece that you've got?
Yes, there is. And it's a piece that I have had since I was a teenager. So I think I was about 16 when I got this. And luckily, I've still got it. Unfortunately, many of my other childhood and teenage clothes have long gone, but this one remains, and it is a completely different vibe from what we've just been looking at. It is a 1990s Adidas tracksuit top with gold stripe. I can remember so many fun nights wearing this. Many outdoor raves. I think it was used to warm me up as the sun was beginning to come up in some misty field somewhere. I was probably covered in mud and wearing Reebok classics and have had an amazing time, but it's imbued with those memories, and I still wear it now. It's a great cover up, and I do love sports clothes, and I do actually like to dress down sometimes a little bit, or sometimes I mix sort of more luxe looks with it too, because it's got that gold and that kind of slight, I guess, decadence to it. It lends itself really nicely in kind of elevating more casual clothes too, I think.
And it's incredible that you've still got it and that it's still in such good condition after all those, nights at raves.
Yeah. I think it has magical powers. It's kind of, be here forever.
It's like the invincible jacket. What's the piece in your wardrobe you would say most sums you up?
That most sums me up. That was a difficult one. I think probably this jacket here. So this is a vintage fur coat with this most beautiful sparkles here. It's really unusual. I've never seen anything like it. And it's just completely over the top and insane. And I think that kind of sums up my attitude to dressing. I find it so difficult when people ask me that question, what's item most sums you up, or how would you describe your style? Because I honestly can't. It's very eclectic, and that's why I've chosen that jacket, because it is quite eclectic. It's sort of almost a little bit confused. It's like a bomber jacket, but it's also a formal jacket. It's got fur, it's got sparkles, it's got excitement about it, and I think that kind of sums up my attitude to dressing. I only like to wear things that fill me with joy and make me feel excited, and I do actually change my outfit if that feeling doesn't arrive. So it actually affects my well-being. I think if I'm wearing something that I don't like or I don't want to like, I had huge problems with uniforms, as you can imagine, throughout my life at school and in sort of early waitressing jobs. I would always be customizing things and getting into trouble. So yeah, that's why I've selected that jacket.
Yeah, I don't think people realise that actually how you dress really impacts how you feel. I think sometimes people get stuck in that rut of wearing, jeans and a t-shirt or leggings and a jumper, and they don't realise that actually that's making them feel miserable. And if they put something else on, they'd probably feel much happier.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such an individual thing as well, isn't it? What you wear might give you joy, it might not give me joy. It's a lovely individual subjective thing. And you're absolutely right. People don't, I think, sort of think about that enough, that it can really lift your mood if you just add some accessories or wear something that you feel really good in. And yeah, and again, that's, I think, sort of very personal, isn't it?
It really is. Now, are you the type of person that ever has a wardrobe malfunction or a fashion faux pas? And would you like to share?
Well, I don't think I've had any fashion faux pas in my opinion. I'm sure probably other people would disagree with me, but I did reflect on that question and I don't regret anything that I've worn ever. And I'm lucky that I grew up in, maybe lucky or not so lucky sometimes, in the 80s and 90s. So there wasn't social media. So a lot of my probably what might be considered by others fashion faux pas are not recorded anywhere. There's a few documented photographs, but they are few and far between. But I've loved everything. And I think that style is like a transition, through our lives, isn't it? It evolves, it changes, it's not static. So even if I wear something and then I think, actually, I might not wear that again, or I didn't quite like how I styled that, I don't regret it or see it as a faux pas at all. In terms of malfunction, yes, I have, and that's why I am prepared for these kinds of occasions now. And I usually travel with me, certainly if I'm working and I'm going to be needing to sort of have outfits that are pristine and ready to go if I'm presenting or lecturing or anything like that. I will have needle and cotton and safety pins with me. So I've had an instant where the hem has kind of dropped off of a puffball dress, which was quite short, so really noticeable. And luckily I did have my trusted safety pins with me and they could just fix that temporarily until I sort of stitched it when I got back. But I'm sure there have been some others as well where a strap's come off, or luckily nothing too humiliating, but I'm prepared if it does happen.
That's amazing that you're so well prepared. I wish I was that well prepared. Now, what are your favourite shoes?
I've got a lot of shoes. As I mentioned earlier, the jelly shoe is my earliest memory, and I'm a bit of a shoe collector and shoe addict. So I've tried to sort of summarise my style a little bit with two very different shoes. The first ones are these insane platform boots, which my disco boots, again, they've seen an Ibiza season or two. What I love about these is the height they give me, because I'm only 5'2". So I put them on and I feel like I'm 6 foot and I can reach things, and it's amazing. I also love platforms for dancing because they're actually remarkably comfortable. Of course, you do have to be careful that you don't have an ankle injury, but they are actually really comfortable to walk in and dance in. And I love anything metallic. They've got, I don't know if you can kind of see like a snake skin effect. And they go with lots of different things as well. And the second pair, quite a different vibe, is a more glamorous sort of classic stiletto. This is probably one of my favourite shoe shapes. I think you cannot go wrong with a pointy toe classic stiletto, and these are sort of a fur effect. I love the contrast of the zebra and the leopard print, and I love red. Red is one of my favourite colours. So yeah, those are my two favourite pairs of shoes.
I love that both of them are such a statement, but in completely different ways. You cannot beat a good statement shoe. I just think it really finishes off like any outfit.
Absolutely. And I think I do wear a lot of trainers and I do like to wear flat shoes, but there's something about heels for me. It changes the way I hold my body and the way that I walk. Sometimes for better or for worse. I do have a maximum heel height that I can't go beyond, but that does not stop me from wearing stilettos that are taller. But what I do is travel with two. So I travel with two pairs of shoes, and I've got the really high ones which are leaning against a bar and looking glamorous, and then the slightly lower ones are for, you know, walking back home. But yeah, I think there's something about stilettos particularly that make me feel really glamorous and sexy and put together. And as you say, they really finish an outfit off.
Is there a piece that you're lusting after? You know, a dream fashion item that you don't yet have in your wardrobe?
Yeah, absolutely. It would be a Vivienne Westwood corset, vintage 1990s. I do search quite regularly on eBay, so I think that's something that I would like to save up and purchase at some point. Vivienne Westwood was one of my favourite designers, and I'm so pleased that the brand is still continuing to grow and create some amazing cutting edge fashion since she sadly departed, but such an innovative designer. And I love corsets. I'm obsessed with corsets. I've studied a lot of corsets and done lots of exhibitions and research on them. And for me, the referencing to historical corsetry and particularly 18th century stays is just perfect. But she's reworked them with such an edgy, punky twist, which I just love. And again, I think they're really versatile. I would wear one if I had it, or when I have one in the future, with jeans to sort of have, you know, dress down a little bit, but equally would look amazing with a beautifully tailored pair of trousers and heels for a more glamorous evening look.
And I love that she cuts them for all different types of body shapes. It's not that you've got to just be, you know, a stick thin waif to be able to wear them. The brand's always been super inclusive in cutting for all different types of body shapes, and it's just, yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, it really is, I think, an item that celebrates the female form, and as you say, it embraces curves and different body types, which is really, really important.
Now, is there a piece of advice that you would give to your younger self about fashion?
Yes, to just wear things that you love. And although I've always been drawn to certain things, and to some extent I think I did do that, I did as a teenager worry about other people's opinions and consider things a lot more, whereas now that process doesn't even happen. I just wear what I want and don't really think about it. But definitely I think as a teenage girl I was very influenced around what my friends were wearing, what I was seeing in fashion magazines, and my advice would be to look at that and be inspired by it. But ultimately, if it's not what you like, or you put it on, or it's a shape that's not going to suit you, that's okay. You know, to just be okay with yourself and your individual tastes and not follow the crowd. And that's easier said than done, I think, when you are younger. But yeah, it would just be to wear what you love.
That is absolutely fabulous advice. Thank you so much for being part of Off the Hanger. It has been really lovely chatting with you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for having me. I've really enjoyed talking to you today too.
I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you did, please remember to like and subscribe on YouTube or give this a follow and a rating.